Hi, I'm Emma Wong and I'll be reading my story, Jin's Gift. Not too long ago, in a Chinese village outside Shanghai, a group of young women stood to wait in line. Many were carrying gifts of fruits, food, or other farm products. At the end of the line was a hunched old man, busy writing with his Chinese brush. Attached to his table, a handwritten sign swished with the breeze. It read, "Letter Writer and Reader," though none of the women in line understood the words. They could neither read nor write. One of the young women was my great-grandmother, Jin Yip. She had long, dark hair and dressed in modest farm clothes. The chatter of the woman in the cramped line filled Jin's ears, but she was too focused on organizing her thoughts to truly hear them. Her turn eventually came, and the man gestured for her to sit down. As she took a seat, she unloaded her thoughts to the old man. He would then transcribe her spoken words as a letter. It was a letter to Jin's husband, who was working in Shanghai. She spoke of how she missed him, how his parents were doing, and reminded him to send money home. Then the old man held out his hand, waiting for his payment. For customers who couldn't afford to pay for the writing service with cash, they needed to pay the letter writer with a gift. Cautiously, Jin grabbed something from her pocket, a single brown egg. For a woman of her status, an egg was a precious thing. She placed it in the man's hand. That was all she could afford to pay for the letter. The old man, looking slightly disappointed, put the egg in his basket and called over his next customer. Jin walked away with her letter, looking at it like it was the most wonderful thing in the world. This story was based on a real account of what my maternal great-grandmother, Jin, would do just so she could get letters written or read. In fact, my great-grandmothers on both maternal and paternal sides were illiterate. Most girls in China at the time could neither read nor write, while the boys were given higher priority for education. Women were essentially indoctrinated to believe that their only role was to clean the house, watch over children, and run errands. An egg may have been a precious gift from young Jin, but she would give away her most important gift later in her life, the gift of education for all her daughters. Jin had a total of 4 daughters, but could not have a son. Unfortunately, her husband ended up marrying a mistress just for him to have a boy. Jin aimed for her daughters to be studious so they could have better lives. To send 4 daughters to school was against the social norm at that time, which meant that Jin had to sacrifice much of her own life for her children. She skipped meals to save money to pay for their education, did free housework for educated men so they could tutor her daughters, and stayed up late every night to prepare the girls for school the next day. As a symbol of hope, she chose for all her daughters' middle names to be Shu or Book. In the end, Jin's hard work paid off well in the long run. All 4 daughters reached at least a high school education. My grandmother was able to establish her own business in Hong Kong with a high school education, and she sent my mother to the USA for a college education. One of my grandaunts immigrated to the US and brought Jin along. Jin lived to be almost 100 years old. My mother said that Jin had comfortable senior years, but since she was illiterate, she spent most of her days watching Chinese soap operas. Jin passed away when I was very young. Whenever I look at a picture of her and me together, I feel grateful that I, a female descendant of a generation of illiterate women, am here writing this article. The egg story was passed on from Jin to my grandmother to my mother and now to me. Now I don't need to pay an egg for literary services, for I am a lucky recipient of my great-grandmother Jin's most precious gift, education for her future generations. Thank you.